Well, here we are. We're at the Ideal Home Show here at Olympia in London. It's 2024, and the charity The Not Forgotten is the chosen charity of the year. And we've got the pipes and drums from the Wiltshire Caledonian Pipes and Drums from Wiltshire, where Stonehenge is. And then straight after that, you'll hear my talk. So enjoy the show. These guys are going to warm up. We're going to have 15 minutes of intro. Hopefully get this place nice and packed. And then on to the talk. So enjoy. Oh, just warmed up.
They do 10 minutes at the end as well.
I believe so.
So do you want to introduce it at the end?
Yeah. Once I've finished, I'll do
Got some drums, yeah?
Yeah, would you like some more? Okay.
Yeah.
But I'll put another penny in the jukebox.
Yeah, definitely. I guess pretty much ready to go. I know it's only the Ideal Home Show. So get them on, get them off, and then introduce you.
Sounds good.
Ready? All right, so how are y'all? Happy smiling faces, security exactly.
Sit down.
Yes, great amazing lineup. Yes, indeed, we have a very prolific on social media. Garland teaching Garland. She's got workshops in London. She is
The beret is definitely going to be the. I want the shoes.
No mirror.
And we've got a great way to wake up this morning, right? Please, give a massive welcome to the Britons, Wiltshire Caledonian Pipes and Drums!
How long's your little chat?
30 minutes.
30.
Yeah.
I
love this.
There it is. That sound.
Stand by. I've got 15 minutes.
The fantastic sound of the books you have very class and go to books. Big round of applause. Fantastic. Really, really wonderful, very well done. Even the cost of the non-profit charity, supporting our veterans since 1920. Now, you've seen around the buckets and the car machines, three speaker things. They've literally been supporting all of us, so many on the Air Force and Merchant Navy, and they are wonderful people. We had the amazing Wayne Smith the other day.
Your mic will go live.
Right, but it's very good to on here because later on we have the amazing player. Originally from Channel 4, he's going to take us through property secrets. He's a qualified mortgage advisor as well, so any questions you've got, join him. You also have the head of the Rainbow Month, the Argument School. He does workshops for living month and actual PowerShell and more. The brilliant August Thursday is here. And she's going to have an interactive session as well. And he's hoping up on stage. But first up, we have an amazing gentleman.
So when he calls your name, when you I'll make you live.
We often see Germany, that how the people in the forces, the support that they're giving. What happens to those in the forces? With local charities that are pretty strong, I would want to welcome to Kirk Lewis. Okay.
Well, hello, and wow, it's amazing being here at the Ideal Home Show. I've actually been here for a week, collecting with the bucket upstairs. I'm here talking on behalf of the Not Forgotten Association, and it's a real privilege to be representing the veterans community and talking about this amazing charity and organisation, which have helped me and have quite literally been a lifeline for me and some fellow veterans that I know along the way. And I explained in my talk how the veterans charities, and in specifically the Not Forgotten, does help veterans. So a little bit about me. Who am I? Well, I'm Kirk Barrett. Just a layman, normal day-to-day guy in the street that you wouldn't see from Adam. But at 16 years of age, I joined the armed force and I joined the infantry as an infantry soldier. And a 16-year-old boy joining the army will ring alarm bells. Why does a 16-year-old boy want to join the army? Well, I was from a broken home. I was from a home where I'd lost my father. I had no father figure, and the military was a new family for me. The home that I lived in as a child was very disrupted, and I needed stability and I needed challenge. So I joined the armed forces in 1995. Now, at that time, we had a lot going on in Europe and Northern Ireland. We had the Bosnia War going on over in the Eastern Europe, and we also had a domestic conflict in Northern Ireland. And my grandmother was nearly blown up in the Arndale Centre in Manchester. So as a young, thrusting, keen guy, I wanted to do something for my country, and joining the army was going to enable me to go to Northern Ireland and hopefully capture these terrorists. Because we've got terrorists and people go out there and do brave things to deal with the terrorists. So my career, I'm now a survival instructor. So I now teach survival for the military. And there's some quite unique parts of being a survival instructor. What qualifies someone to be a survival instructor? Well, a near-death experience helps. If you've been through a near-death experience or saved colleagues from conflict, that qualifies you. Okay, and I'm lucky enough to be in that position now. I teach survival to military air crews, pilots, helicopter pilots, fighter jet pilots now. I've got the huge privilege of doing that. But what's taken me to that journey? Well, I served in the Cheshire Regiment. There's me in Northern Ireland as a 19-year-old soldier, rifle in hand, patrolling the streets overtly. I did do some covert stuff where we would spy on the terrorists, gather information, and then we'd catch them. I was serving in Cyprus, and we were in Jordan at the time, and we were shooting on the ranges and doing some desert conflict stuff. And I walked back into the tent, and all the guys are having a cup of tea watching the TV. And on the TV was what I thought was a movie. And it was two towers with planes flying into them. It was the Twin Towers, 9/11. And that changed the trajectory for a lot of military personnel. We found ourselves in the Middle East, Iraq and Afghanistan. I served in Iraq with my unit in Basra, and then my unit deployed to Afghanistan, where we served. And in 2010, under very difficult conditions in the Helmand province, I lost 12 of my colleagues, 12 close friends. And returning back to the UK and burying some of them friends put me in a very difficult position. I left the army that year after serving for 18 years. So 18 years service, losing 12 of my mates, I decided to pull the plug and get out of the army, a very difficult decision. The picture in the middle is me back in Iraq. And I'm back out there as a bodyguard, doing close protection. I've taken my skills as a soldier into the civvy street in the UK, struggled for work and employment, struggled for a salary, and ended up back in the Middle East in a dangerous environment, looking after the Foreign Office, State Department, bringing about diplomatic missions, bringing about peace, trying to make the place a more stable place. I'm thinking Iraq's only going to get safer. 2010 rolls into 2013. Barack Obama withdraws the American troops from Iraq, and I'm thinking things are good, things are hunky-dory. However, Islamic State decided to make things a bit tricky for us. Because what happens when a military organisation leaves a country quickly or a governing body is overthrown, there's a power vacuum. Islamic State moved into the country and started carrying out atrocities. And I was evacuating clients to the airport where my vehicle was hit by a roadside bomb. We were driving to the airport, we dropped the clients off, we were returning back to our base. I'm thinking it's only going to be a couple of days before I go on leave. I'm going to get a good hot shower and a good bite to eat, and I approach the checkpoint. There were people at the checkpoint. They weren't police, they weren't military, they were a militia, a very dangerous one. I told my driver, Edan, to put his foot down. Go, 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 Edan. He drives through the checkpoint, second vehicle through, third vehicle through, fourth vehicle through, then bang. An explosion hit my vehicle. My vehicle went about 12 or 13 feet in the air and began to roll. Windows blew out, doors ripped off, and the vehicle came to a standstill in the desert. I came too. I fell out of the vehicle. I assumed my driver hadn't survived, which he didn't. Unfortunately, we lost Edan, my driver. But my team kicked into action. They saved my life. They grabbed me, dragged me into another vehicle, bombed across the desert to a small Iraqi clinic in the middle of the desert. The surgeon pumped me full of morphine and he chopped my left arm off. I'm actually now a left arm amputee. If it had stayed on, it would have killed me. Through that night, they smuggled me out to Baghdad airport and they flew me back to UK to Adam Brooks Hospital. Private jet, VIP treatment back to the UK. I went through some surgery, I had to learn how to walk again. I've got a metal plate in my leg. They discovered that I had a broken neck. So they were very, very lucky to have put a neck brace on me. And when I recovered in my hospital bed, I sat on the edge of my bed and I pinched myself and said, Kirk, you're alive. I decided to call my mates back in Iraq to tell them I'm okay. Because the last time we'd left a guy on the aircraft, the guys were in real turmoil as to whether he was okay or not. So I made a valiant effort to say, right, guys, I'm alive, I'm okay. How are you guys? So on the phone to the guys in Iraq, the guys are on the phone saying, Kirk, we're glad you're home, we're glad you're safe. It's all right, guys, I'm drinking soup through a straw, it's fine. And then my 2IC, Gary, the South African guy, said, Kirk, I've got your arm here, what do you want me to do with it? I said, what, you've got my arm? He said, yeah, I've got your arm. The Iraqi clinic couldn't dispose of it. Because I'm not Muslim, they couldn't put it in a grave. They couldn't bury it like a funeral. So they gave it him in a tub, and they were driving around for a few days with it in the tub. They buried it in the desert. And I know where it is, so I will go back and dig it up one day. Okay? So I discharged from hospital and I went home to my family, young family at the time, my wife and 2 young children. And I now had to begin to rebuild my life. What is my life now? Who am I? I've gone from being a very able-bodied soldier to now somebody disabled. I was in a wheelchair. I'd served in places like Northern Ireland in Sangers with armoured windows. I'd been in the jungle with a hammock. I've been in a snow hole in the Arctic. I've been in a base with armoured walls. This was home to me, but now I was home. I was home with my family. Bricks and mortar in England, things couldn't be better. I'd spent all the time away in these places, dreaming about home, but when I got home, it felt like I was on an alien planet. It didn't feel like home to me. I was introduced to Not Forgotten, and they sent me on a skiing trip to Colorado. I was very lucky to go on this trip. And whilst I was on the trip in the afternoon, we've been skiing for the day, I was sitting with two wounded guys. They both lost their legs, one in Iraq, one in Afghanistan. I said, guys, what do you do with yourselves now? You both lost your limbs, what you doing? And they said, we've both just been in Fury with Brad Pitt. I said, I'll have a go with that. What are we doing? They're being casualties. Right, sign up for a casting agency, I'll do that. So I signed up for a casting agency. I got on Wonder Woman, Game of Thrones, Goodbye Christopher Robin. I've been killed a couple of times in Game of Thrones. And then a couple other war films, a few stunts. But life was beginning to fall apart. I became a workaholic. I would do my job in London, then I'd go onto a film set and not go home. I began to drink really heavily. I was alienating myself from my family. I began to live on the sofa in my office at work. This wasn't home. I was in a survival situation. I began to close down. My communication systems had stopped. And I found myself homeless. I thought it was quite a difficult journey to become homeless. If you've got a roof over your head and you pay your bills, things will be fine. But all it takes is a few things. A few, bad luck or a financial difficulty or a bereavement or a financial problem or something like that, and you could end up homeless. Now, for a veteran who has been serving and is now out in the wide community without that family network in other parts of the country, being homeless can be a very difficult place. You can't turn around to the neighbour and say, hey mate, can I come and sleep in your shed? So this is the situation that we're facing. Now, because I've been introduced to Not Forgotten, I began to develop a network. Social media was great for this sort of thing. Guys, I'm struggling. I'm living on a sofa at work. I'm barely clinging on to my job. I'm drinking really heavily. What can I do? And then a couple of guys came round and said, Kirk, we're going to get you to counselling. You need to be counselled. You need to talk about what's happened to you. And I did. And the Veterans Charities put me through some counselling. And I began to rebuild my life. I had become homeless in my mind. I'd lost what home is. I'd forgot the identity of home, but also because I'd been through such trauma, the new me needed to re-emerge. There was a new version of me. So when I teach survival, I talk about this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're all doing it today. Everyone around us here is facilitating our hierarchy of needs. Okay, we've got food, we've got clothing, we've got shelter. Okay, the ideal home show, this is the place. Okay, but we start with the big ones at the bottom. Food, water, shelter. If I've got none of those, my life is in danger. And for somebody who's homeless, this is definitely the case. Okay, this is definitely the case. And other things that can come into that with addiction and alcoholism and drugs, these are all a part of that. So I needed to go back to the drawing board. I needed to get a roof over my head. And the charities did that. They got me my first rented flat, helped me with a deposit, and got me a roof back over my head with running water and electricity. Wow, that's a start. My new beginning was me finding who the new me was. What was I good at? Well, I was good at communication. I was good at talking to my teammates. I was good at getting people together and bonding. I needed a purpose. Well, I enjoyed the acting. I enjoyed getting blown up on set. What do I like? I like stories. I like films. I like stage and theatre. Well, can I make money out of that? There's many salespeople out here doing that. Every single person who's a sales rep out here is a performing artist because they have to sell you something. Okay? And that is a great trade, okay, and a great way to open a door. And my new identity, who am I? Well, I'm now somebody who has been through a survival journey. I've unravelled physically and nearly died, and now I've unravelled psychologically and nearly died. I've been through 2 near-death experiences. COVID kicked in, and I found myself finding new work. What am I going to do for a job? I wanted a job in the great outdoors. I wanted a job working with bushcraft or something like that, something with energy, something with excitement. So I was doing 2 things. I was doing some stage and film and theatre, which was really great for facilitating my ego, okay, which has now grown, okay. But also what I ended up doing was becoming a survival instructor, okay, teaching others how to survive. Now this is for the military, you know, taking them in the middle of nowhere, stripping them completely off, taking their wallets, their phones, everything off them and saying, here you go, here's a knife. Build yourself a home, okay? And if you look at the top right corner, Ideal Home Show. I told my friends at work I'd get a bushcraft shelter in the Ideal Home Show. Here it is, okay? Right hand side, that's a palace, okay? I've got my bed in there, I've got my fire, okay? I've got shelter over my head, brilliant, okay? But that is a home. When we take our survival students into the woods and they find their first place to stay, once they start building their shelter, that becomes home to them. When we take them away and teach them something, they actually say to me, I'm going home, back to my shelter. And they've only been in the woods for a week, and that is their new home. When we take them out of the woods, they actually tell me, I'm going to miss my home. Because it's actually very basic. You don't have to pay bills. You don't have to pay council tax on that. Okay? So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed training other people. And I really enjoyed the structure of what keeps us alive. A roof over your head, heating, clothing, food, water. We get that right, we're going to get everything else honky-dory. And I adapted that to my life. A real big part of my journey is fundraising and explaining how the charities work and why they're so important. Along that journey, I could have gone down a real dark path. I could have become the me with no connections, no people, my unit isolated up in the northwest where I'm from, me down here near London, no friends and colleagues. When I came to the charity, I was introduced to people. I was introduced to a network of people. That is really important to us. We live in our communities. We live in our house and our home, but our home belongs within that community. And without that community, our home could be in a very difficult place because we've got neighbours, we've got friends, we've got relatives, we've got clubs down the road. This is all about building your community and society. This is the home. So I want to finish on my plan for survival. This is what we teach our survival students. Plan, protection, location, acquisition, and navigation. So protection, that's your paying your bills, having an income, making sure your water rates are paid, making sure you pay your electric bill. Those people that are struggling at the moment with the austerity, this is them potentially in a survival situation. Okay, this is where the charities help, or we guide people to directions for financial assistance. Okay, location. Where are we going to live? Can we walk? Do I have a vehicle? Do I have a car? Now, when I left the military, I literally put a dot in the map and said, I'm going to live there. Okay, and that is quite a difficult roll of the dice. You can sometimes get that wrong. Acquisition. I can see that happening all around me now. Yeah, food, water, supplies. There's a great cafe upstairs in the food hall. Loads of it up there. Okay, I was doing plenty of acquisition last week. And then navigation. Now, for our survival guys, that's getting to safety. But for somebody who's in difficulty, that is getting help. You know, physical injury to a hospital, psychological injury to counselling, or to a community group where they can be helped. Okay, so it can apply to everyone, that plan. So that's me. I've written a couple of books. A lot of the military guys buy them. There's my story on there about survival. You've heard my journey. But I'd like to finish on sort of thanking Richard and the team for having me down, and basically explaining my journey and explaining how I've gone through those two adversities into my recovery. And again, thank you all for listening to my story. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Jack. Incredible. Great story. You're back at 4 p.m.
Yeah,
And we'll maybe do a bit of a quick Q&A session as well at 4 p.m. as well.
fantastic.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. And don't forget, please give very generously to the Not Forgotten charity. They are terrific. They've got a bucket, they've got the sashes on as well. Please do give generously. They've been supporting our efforts since 1920, and they're a